Radio UK, the leading Afro-Caribbean radio station in London.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Bebe Means Business Show. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm your host, Bebe Clement, and I run a group of small companies, and I'm also the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. People always ask me, how can we connect with you outside of the show? So I'm just very quickly going to share my contact details regarding social media. You can connect with me on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @BebeClement. Or you can go to Instagram at @Bebe_Clement. Or if you're more serious minded and you like LinkedIn, then just put in my name and I will definitely come on. I want to thank everyone that tuned in last week, and a special shout out to Muri Owoyemi, who was joining us all the way from Nigeria. Thank you so much for your comments on Facebook. We appreciate that. This show exists to serve you in the area of business and entrepreneurship and help you be the best that you can be in business and become financially free. So I'm glad to hear from the feedback that it looks like mission is being accomplished. Okay, so last week, for those of you who tuned in, I introduced segment into the show called The Book Corner. And I decided that every week I'll take a few minutes and review some of the books that have influenced my life for the better in the area of business. And to kick off that segment, I had a guest on the show, Blessing Theophilus Israel. So I want to thank Blessing very much for coming along. She's the founder of the Christian Millionaires Book Club. And she shared the vision of the club is to raise 12,000 millionaires to fund the gospel and to be a blessing. So I want to thank you very much, Blessing, for coming on. It was very enlightening and the feedback has been wonderful. But today I'm super excited, super excited, because for those of you who are regular listeners, I started a series called Faith and Finance. And this is going to be part 2 of that series. And as you know, I try to expose you to the very best speakers, the best business mentors as well, because if you can't see it, you can't be it. So some of us know where we want to go, but we have no frame of reference for where we want to go. But if you have people who are doing what it is that you want to do, then it makes it easier for you to accomplish your mission. So today I have the absolute honor of having one of today's foremost thought leaders in the area of business and entrepreneurship on the show, Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Now, before he introduces himself, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him. Rabbi Lapin is a business professional, obviously, but he's also an author of 7 books. He's a speaker and TV host. He emigrated to the United States from South Africa, where he was born, after studying maths, physics, and economics in Israel and the United Kingdom. His best-selling books for our purposes are Business Secrets from the Bible and Thou Shalt Prosper, the 10 Commandments for Making Money. Newsweek magazine has referred to him as one of America's most influential rabbis. And with his wife, Susan, he hosts the daily TCT television show, Ancient Jewish Wisdom. Sir, your reputation precedes you, and you are very, very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much indeed. And Bebe, from now onwards, you can be sure that my resume will include "and has appeared on Bebe Clement's show."
Thank you, sir. Okay, just to let my listeners know, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is a live show and it's an interactive one. Rabbi Lapin is on hand to answer any questions that you may have, so get those questions in. If you are joining us on Facebook, you can put them in the chat. Facebook is at Star Radio UK. Our Twitter handle as well is at Star Radio UK. Or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07539 661 That number again, 07539 661 Or send us an email at info@starradio.uk and your questions will be answered. This is a rare opportunity, guys. Don't waste it. Let's get those questions in. Okay, Rabbi Lapin, I want to really get as much juice out of your interview as much as possible, so I'm going to delve right in there. Now, the other day, I was watching Robert Kiyosaki, and he was doing a talk, and he said something that I thought was quite profound, and I mulled over it for days. He said, rich people look for and build networks. Rich people look for and build networks. Everybody else looks for a job. Now, when I mentioned to you when we were speaking the other day, I said to you that networking is not something my people do well. You sounded surprised. And I wanted to clarify what I meant by that before I ask you to comment. If I have a networking event, which I do, I have quite a few of them, I won't have a problem. People will attend. It's not a problem. They will attend. But the most that will probably come out of it is they will get a couple more new customers or they'll get their name out there, that kind of thing. But the hard graft that goes on behind the scenes by way of building collaborations and establishing profitable partnerships that facilitate growth, we're not good at doing that. What happens is everybody does their own little thing in their own little corner of the world, and they literally do it to death because they're doing it on their own. So I would like you to speak to that. So what is the importance, or how important is building networks in wealth creation and business?
Well, Bebe, you really come out of the gate throwing the hard balls. So right away, you place me in a predicament of whether I should make you happy or whether I should tell you the truth.
Tell us the truth, Rabbi.
And I suspect it'll probably make you happy as well. I think you do want to hear the truth. But here's the thing. Robert obviously is absolutely correct in establishing a link between networks and wealth. But when he says rich people build networks, I would change that a little bit, and I would say everybody should build networks. I would say that without it, you don't succeed. But here's the problem. I never attend network building events, and I discourage people from attending them. So it could be that your crowd, by not really sort of getting into the network events, I think I'm giving them a pat on the shoulder saying, well done. And here's what's wrong with networking events, Bebe. They are essentially selfish and venal. Anybody coming to a network event is saying, I want, here's my business card, contact me, this is what I'm looking for clients, I'm looking for customers. That's not the way networks are built. Networks are built with generosity and giving, not with venality and selfishness and ego. And that's the problem with networking events. We've all been at them 100 times. I just don't go anymore. Third Wednesday of every month, we're all going to get together for breakfast, and all it is a big session of me. I mean, that's all it's about. People are there because they want. And the best networking is done where people are not taking but giving. So, for instance, in synagogue, people say, "Oh, you're supposed to be in synagogue to pray to God." Yeah, we pray to God. That's right, but that's not all we do. we certainly don't rush home as soon as the service is finished. We hang out and, and we have something to eat or something to drink together, and we socialize. And as I mix and mingle at many synagogues around the world, I hear business deals are being set up. Okay, great. Call me on Monday. I'll take care of it. Or can I, that's where it's done, because we're not there for selfish purposes. It happens at church. I speak at many, many churches around the world all the time. Well, I guess not while the damn panic was going on, but the rest of the time. And it happens in church as well. In wise churches, in churches led by good leaders, they understand that the function of the church is not only to provide a roof over the head of those who are praying, but also to provide community and connection. I'll tell you somewhere else where connections are built, and that is at various welfare clubs and organizations. If people are on the board of directors of a youth organization, or people attend a board meeting of a musical organization, whatever it is, that's where the connections happen. So I would say, and with all respect, but what I would say is, hey, knock those networking events off your calendar. Buy yourself an extra couple of hours a month. Don't do that at all, but look for opportunities where you can be a giver and a contributor. Look for a group that you can join, to which you can bring some additional energy or additional information or experience. Look for a group that you can associate with. That's where connections are made. And people try and have constantly tried to come up with explanations of what are the commonalities of financially successful individuals. They've tried all kinds of things, but the bottom line was nailed by Malcolm Gladwell in The Tipping Point, where he said that successful people, financially successful people, have a large number of friends. Now, when I say friends, that doesn't mean friends on Facebook. I would happily exchange 1,000 Facebook friends for one customer.
Yeah.
Facebook friends is meaningless. So what is the definition of a friend? Somebody who will return your call or return your email within 24 hours.
Okay.
Not somebody you're already involved in financially, but you pick up the phone and call a friend, you leave a message, and he gets back to you. That's a friend. And one of the programs I put my students through, BB, is that I make them go and list all their friends in a notebook. Now, there's good news and bad news here. The good news is it won't take you nearly as long as you think it will. And the bad news is because very few of us have that many friends. When you define it correctly, leave out relatives, leave out people you owe money to, because they return your call pretty quickly too. And then what you're left with, you'll find, honestly, if you've got 50 friends, you are a blessed individual. It's not, people don't have that many real friends. But go look, count it up. And then set yourself the task of adding one every month. And it's also not as easy as you might think. And then you learn the techniques of how to build relationships. You don't build relationships by telling people what you want. You build relationships by trying to fill their needs.
Yes.
And so I'll go up to somebody at synagogue and shake hands, and we'll say hello, and I'm asking him about himself. I'm not telling him about my business. I'm asking him what he does. And I'll ask him about his family. And if he's got a son and he tells me his son is mad about football, well, guess what? On Monday I'm going to get hold of a pair of tickets for a football match, and I'm going to send them to him by messenger on Tuesday. And I'm going to say, please use these, take your son out to the game, and that's what I'm doing. And now we're on our way to a friendship. And The next thing
Yes.
I'll do is when he thanks me, I'll at that point I might ask him for a favor, not business, but I'd say, hey, we're holding a special memorial service for somebody on the 20th of next month. Do you think you might be willing to come and say a few words there? That kind of thing. I'm building relationships. And if I may say, as somebody who is from Africa and who I just a little while ago did a speaking tour, I was in Ghana for a week of speeches. I think Africans are fantastic at connections, but it's authentic connections.
Yeah.
They're real. That's my experience. The networking. I even loathe that word because it has a connotation to me personally. It sort of sounds like, oh, I'm building my network, and now you're nothing except you're a little block. You're a building block in my network. No, you're not. You're a human being created in the image of God, and when God said it's not good for man to be alone in chapter 2 of Genesis, he wasn't only talking about Adam getting married to Eve. He was talking about it's not good for any of us to be alone. And that means that if you and I become friends, we can achieve so much more together than the sum of what either of us could achieve alone. That's what a genuine connection is. That's what a friend is. And that's why I felt I had to answer you the way I did.
No, but thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you for your honesty there. Although I must say, love you though I do, I think you've just dried up one of my income streams, but that's okay. That's okay. I still love you.
No, you can just
Okay.
you could just restructure it and redesign it a little bit. So, for instance, what I would do if I had a regular group that met once a month and it was just sort of based on networking and let's find out what each of you need, and you need a customer and you need a client, I'd change it and I'd say let's make the main purpose of our group, fundraising for orphan children or something. Let's be about more than just ourselves, and you'd be amazed the magic that flows from that.
Thank you, Rabbi. Okay, I wanted to go on to something that I was going to ask later on, but I'm going to ask it now because it ties into what you were talking about as regards churches. Now, I can assure you there are lots of pastors listening. I've said this to all the pastor friends I have. So there are lots of pastors listening, particularly from Africa, to this show. Now, one of the things that we have in the UK, or you have in America that we don't have in the UK, is you have these mega churches.
Yes.
Where you have 20,000, 30,000 people attending a single church. Now that's very rare, as you know. That's very rare in the UK.
I spoke at a church in London with 10,000 people, and several of the churches I spoke to in the UK were 2,000 to 3,000 plus.
Yeah.
So, you're doing just great.
But the majority of our churches tend to be smaller and independent, that kind of thing. Yeah. Now, I'm a church leader. I've been a church leader for about 30 years. I've served in different capacities over the years in different churches. And one of the things that I have noticed is there is a huge, sometimes almost exclusive dependence on tithe and offering as being the only source of income for a church. Now, I'm opposed to this, greatly opposed to this, and I make this very well known whenever I go and speak, because I do a lot of wealth creation seminars in churches, so I work very closely with pastors, and I'm very, very opposed to this. One of the things I encourage pastors to do, or church leaders to do, is to establish a business club within their church that can identify and nurture wealth creators, and expose them to people like yourself, good teaching, good mentors that will give them an environment for them to flourish, teach them about giving and holiness and serving other people with their money, letting them know that they're blessed to be a blessing. So that's basically some of the things that I try to teach pastors. But the current situation we are in with the pandemic, the truth is a lot of churches are closing down in the UK because a problem that they had before the pandemic, that they kind of were trucking along regarding it and, you know, pretending like it didn't really exist, has come to the fore, and that is that they have very little money. What advice would you give church leaders by way of a strategy, considering where the church is now post-pandemic, or, you know, coming to the end of the pandemic, hopefully? What advice would you give church leaders by way of strategy in finances going forward?
That's a really great question, and a very important one, because long before the pandemic, I always was able to identify the kind of church that I was going to be speaking at before I even entered the building. I'd come into the parking lot. It's a church I've never visited before, and some churches I would come to and I would see there's grass growing through cracks in the parking lot, and the roof, I noticed, could do with some repair, and I see a light bulb out, hasn't been replaced, and I see some peeling paint, and I just know that when I meet the pastor and his wife is going to have on her face the look of somebody financially stressed.
Yeah.
And then I know that somehow or another this church is not focused on that question that you just raised. They're not focused on the financial welfare of the membership of the church. And so what I love doing is sitting down with the leadership team of the church and explaining, and I would say the same thing now post-pandemic to churches that are trying to rebuild and regrow their mission. I would say, first of all, as alien as this is to your instincts, I want to urge you to start looking at your ministry as a business.
Wow, okay.
And I know this doesn't come easy to you, but I want you to start looking at your ministry as a business. And the very first question that any business has to ask, even before it opens its doors, is, how can I best serve most people?
Okay.
And you might say, well, you know, people need faith in their lives, and people need, yeah, and that is all true. But how are you going to distinguish your business? What are you going to add beyond a roof over their head to keep the rain off worshippers? What else are you doing? And so as a result of that, for instance, a number of the churches that I've coached in the United States start doing other things. Like, I'll give you an example. It's now become quite popular, but I was instrumental in introducing the concept, which is on every Tuesday night, there's a gathering at the church, and or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it is. And this is when people who are financially stressed and who have postponed getting a new car and are trying to extract a few more miles out of the old clunker, get together with those in the church who have mechanical knowledge. And I've yet to find, you know, any church, and this would be true in the UK as well, you know, you get a few hundred, you get 100, 200 people together, guaranteed there are a few guys there with mechanical knowledge, because we guys like cars. That's all there is to it. And so you tell me to come out. I may not be able to come out every Tuesday night, but I'll come out one Tuesday night a month, and I'll talk to the folks who have cars there that are giving problems, and I'll find one or two of them that I can actually do something about, and I'll be able to identify the problem. And then you find that people are motivated, and other folks in the church step forward and say, look, if spare parts are needed, we'll pay for spare parts. And all of a sudden, you know, there's a whole bunch of single moms. The last time I was at an event like this, a whole bunch of single moms, they got something of real value. They were as happy as could be. They had big, broad grins on their faces because they went home driving a car that sounded a whole lot better than the car they brought in at the beginning of that evening. It's a simple matter, but it's a church-centric kindness. Everybody needs their cars. We're dependent on our cars, and here was an easy way to do something. Well, you can believe that those moms who were helped in that fashion, they're not going to any other church ever. This is their church from here on out, and the church advertises this every month, and people join the church. Well, you can't imagine what an injection of energy and money this brings to the church. This is just one of approximately 17,892 ideas that could be applied.
Wow. I hope the pastors and the church leaders who are listening are taking notes. And my prayer is that the Holy Spirit will begin to speak to you and give you ideas as to which would be appropriate for your church, as to how you can, begin to meet the needs of the people in your church. I think it boils down to what you're saying, Rabbi, that at the end of the day, we're there to serve. We're there to serve, not to get, but to serve. And I think once you flip that mentality, it opens up a whole different channel for you and the way you relate to your people, and indeed the way that those people relate to you. So yes, thank you for that. All right, we're going to take a break in a minute, but before we do, I have a question for you, Rabbi. Now, a few years ago, I read a book called The Jewish Phenomenon. And I don't know if you've read that book, but it was just such an eye-opener for me. I'd always been fascinated by the Jews, but that book just was such an eye-opener for me. Because in that book, I read that there are actually less than, I think, 4 million Jews in the United States. But when I looked at how, to borrow your word, disproportionately successful they are in business and entrepreneurship and wealth and creating money and all that, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. So what I'd like you to do is answer a question that I know a lot of them have, and they don't want to ask, so I'm going to ask it. Why are Jews so successful in business and enterprise? What is it that you guys know that we don't know? One such example was something that Jeff said a little while. Jeff Letts, he was on this show a little while back, and one of the things that he said was that we often sit at the dining table and discuss money with our children. Now, for my community, that's almost anathema. So what is it that you guys know that we don't, that we could adapt?
Yeah. Well, that, of course, is the main topic of my best-selling book, Thou Shalt Prosper, the 10 Commandments for Making Money. And I started that book by saying, look, everybody knows that Jews are disproportionately good with money. That is not a statement of bigotry. It's not a statement of hatred. It's a statement of fact. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Because there are only two ways to obtain money. Only two. The one way is with force. If you point a gun at somebody's head and say, give me your wallet, that would be one way of getting money. And it's widely practiced in the United States. There's only one other way of doing it. And that is by saying to somebody, what would you give me if I gave you this? If I served you in this way, would you give me 17 pounds? That's the only other way. And so when I say I am proud about the fact that I'm good with money, and I'm proud about the fact that my people have traditionally been disproportionately good with money, the reason I'm proud of it is because they don't do it by pointing guns at people's heads. They do it by serving other people. And what's so important about this is that we once again realize that the marvelous magic of money is set in motion by giving, not by taking. Yes. We don't walk around saying, how can I get more money? We don't walk around saying, oh, please, God, show me how I can get 600 pounds so I can make my payments this month. We never say that. We say, God, please open my eyes so I can see more of your children that need my services.
Wow.
The money flows by itself, and that's crucial. It's a major attitudinal adjustment, and in the book Thou Shalt Prosper, I explain how to bring that about. Because you're exactly right. In America, one of the most prominent financial magazines is Forbes magazine. And for decades already, every year they produce a list of the 400 richest Americans. Now, Jews constitute about 1.5% of America's population. And so 1.5% of 400 is 6. There should be about 6 Jews on that list. But they're not. They're usually about 60 to 100. So instead of being less than 2%, we're usually more than 20%. So it's 10 times overrepresentation. And you're right. What is the secret? Well, the good news is that it's not circumcision. Because if it were, most guys would prefer poverty. That is not the secret. And the secret isn't Jewish soul food. You know, you don't have to eat matzah in order to. It's nothing like that. But what it is a vast collection of tips and tools and techniques that emerge out of the Hebrew Bible through the lens of ancient Jewish wisdom.
Okay.
And understanding God's intention for human economic interaction is fundamental to this. Obviously, you know, if you go into to swim in a river, it's usually best to swim upstream against the current, because then you can float down back to your starting place with the current. But it's hard to swim against the current. Well, the good Lord has created certain currents in the world that he created, and some of those currents have to do with the river of money. And in this case, it's so much better to swim with the current than against it. You go so much further and it's so much easier. In other words, operating in accordance with God's patterns and flows mean that you stand a much better chance of success than trying to combat it. And one of them, it's only one, and it's an important one, and there are many, many, many more, which is why I had to write an entire book to lay them out in a structured order that everybody can follow. And is that, is as we were talking about, yes, you have to be focused on the service of other people, not the taking from other people. The money will absolutely flow by itself. And that's why one of the worst pieces of advice that are ever given to young people who finish school is, well, you should go now and find a job doing what you love. That's rubbish. Complete rubbish. Because it's a statement of selfishness. And what I'm telling everybody now, Bebe, is that this is the best advice you could possibly hear. Pardon me, I'm not trying to sound obnoxious, and it's not, because I'm not telling you how smart I am. I never came up with any of this. This is just straight out of ancient Jewish wisdom. I was lucky enough to have good teachers, and I'm able to pass it on. But if you're looking for a job, and you know, I hire people for my business all the time, and one of the questions I ask is, you know, what are your ambitions? What would you like to see yourself doing in 5 years' time? And if the person answers, it's a trick question, because more than half of the applicants, and that's even after we've done a preliminary sorting, half the applicants, Bebe, will answer, oh, well, I'm hoping to save enough money so as that I can go traveling and I won't have to worry about money. So my goal is to work for 3 or 4 years, and you know, that would be a really bad example of an answer. Another bad example of an answer is that, oh, you know, I want to go back to university so I can finish a degree in that, so I'm going to work for a little while. Or somebody might say, well, you know, I want to build a band, and so I need money. All of these answers tell me that you don't care one little thing about me. You're only telling me what you want. Let me be perfectly frank with you. I couldn't care what you want. I'm in business. I'm looking to recruit a new hire, and my focus is on my needs. And you fell into the trap. You answered my question in a way that revealed to me that you couldn't care about my needs. You're out. I'm looking for the applicant who says, you want to know where I am in 5 years? In 5 years, I hope I'm sitting in your seat and that you've been promoted upwards. In 5 years, I want to have made your life so much better. I want to have improved the bottom line of this business. I want to become desperately and vitally needed by this business. I want my contribution to be so significant and so profound and so meaningful that there's no way you'd ever let me go. Those are my ambitions for the next 5 years. Man, I've hired you before you've even finished talking.
Okay. All right, Rabbi Lapin, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll see if any questions have come in, and then we'll pick it up from where we just left off now. Ladies and gentlemen, grab a glass of water and meet me back here in a few seconds. Don't go away.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. You are tuned into the Bebe Means Business Show, and this is the second edition of our series, Faith and Finance. And on the show today, I have the honor and the pleasure of hosting Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and he's been answering some questions that I've been asking him as regards business and entrepreneurship and finance and wealth creation and all that. Just before we went on break, you were explaining that if you were going to hire somebody, what you'd be looking for is for them to communicate to you how they are intending to serve you. And I thought that was really important, because oftentimes when I speak to people like you, I get it's all about what I can get as opposed to what you can give. And I really feel that from the little I know and from my little of my relationship with God, it's supposed to be about serving. It's about serving. It's about giving. And like you say, once you do that, the money follows. Can you just round that up? Do you have anything else you want to say on that issue?
Yes. In seeking a job, don't look for a job that you love doing.
Okay.
You know, I like fishing. Nobody's going to give me a job going fishing. It's my hobby. The way to do it is to look for a job where you can serve the most number of people in the most meaningful way. How do you find a job like that? What are you looking for? Well, it's very simple. Through the marvelous and mysterious workings of the market system, it's easy to find out how I can be most valuable to anybody and everybody, and that is find a job that pays the most money. It's really simple. What if it's a job I don't like doing? Here's the key. Don't seek a job doing what you love. Seek the right job and then learn to love doing it.
Okay.
I gave a lecture in Kansas City last Tuesday, and it was a group of entrepreneurs and business people who wanted to spend a day working with me on improving and growing their businesses. And I went around the room and asked everyone to introduce themselves. I said, please tell me about your name and you, and then I want you to tell me about your family situation, what sort of family you have, and then I want you to tell me what you do, and the way I always define what you do is, how do you serve God's other children? And we went around, and it was pretty routine and pretty standard. People told me, I'm single, I'm divorced, I'm married, this is my name, I'm a plumber, I'm a builder, I'm a contractor, etc., etc. One guy says, my name is John, I'm a widower, and I'm a garbage man. And I said, John, stand up. You are going to be the poster boy of today's session, because you did not try to sugarcoat what you do. You could have stood up and said, hi, I'm John, I'm a widower, and I am a sanitation engineer with a specialty in solving disposal problems for the community. No, he said, I'm a rubbish man, I'm a garbage man, that's what I do. And I said, I love that. And what I have to point out, folks, is that he's not a guy who rides on the back of the truck, although he has done that. He's a guy who now owns 97 trucks. He's nearly got 100 trucks already, with a lot of people working for him. But he started off as a garbage man, and he still thinks of himself, I'm a garbage man, that's what I do. And this is wonderful. To be proud of how you serve God's other children is hugely important. And so something that I stress, and if you don't mind, I am a business professional, so I will take the opportunity to promote.
By all means, please.
But this is, why is it not? There we are.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Thou shalt prosper. The 10 Commandments for making money. Oh, I see. Yep. This is very interesting. The camera equipment is engineered to pick up faces, not objects.
I see. Okay.
Brilliant. In what I teach in that book is exactly this idea that if you can adjust your thinking, and I show you how to adjust your thinking to start thinking in terms of what you can do for other people, and it all whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking to expand your business, to grow, find more customers, whether you are, I don't know, maybe you're a bookkeeper, you want more clients, maybe you're a plumber, you want more customers. All of these things are best thought through in the context of a world in which you exist to serve other people.
Wow. Rabbi, for a lot of people listening, that would be a 360-degree turnaround mindset. But I think you're right, that except we do that, make that turnaround, we're actually going to continue to be frustrated in our attempts to become wealthy, because that's not how God ordained it. He ordained it for us to serve.
Yes.
Okay, I want to move on to something else. I've been known to say this, that public speaking, or the ability to communicate well in public, is singularly the most important skill of the 21st century. This is something that I say a lot. In your view, how important is this skill in business success? And what advice would you give to those that struggle in this area?
Hugely important. As a matter of fact, of all the organs on our body, I'm not counting the brain or the heart or our soul, but of all the organs on our body, the single most important one for making money is the mouth. Unless you're a swimsuit model, in which case keep your mouth shut and look beautiful. But for the rest of us who are not endowed with, they wouldn't hire me as a swimsuit model. I've come to terms with that. But it's okay, I've made up for it, because I can speak better than I look, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
And so people are usually, many people are frightened of speaking in public, and I used to be as well, but I obviously got over it, and I have techniques and ways for people to get over it. Most of which I cover in greater detail in Thou Shalt Prosper. But the one thing I would tell our audience here and now is that it's hugely important to be able to articulate ideas and to express them persuasively and coherently is at the absolute heart of business success. And again, there are biblical reasons for that. I won't go into them at length now, but you know, it's not just the Irish who have the gift of the gab. It's also the Hebrews.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that is, and this is something everybody can do. People sometimes say, you know, I'm not good with words. I don't. So what? You know, we're human beings. We're not camels or cats or cows or kangaroos. Animals stay what they are. You know, if I got a cow, when I come out to my pasture next Thursday, I don't expect to see my cow has turned into an artist. It's still a cow. But human beings have the capacity to grow and change.
Yes.
And none of us are today what we were 10 years ago.
Mm.
Most of us are much more effective. We're bigger, we're wiser, we're better than we were 10 years ago. But there are also people who are worse than they were 10 years ago, and that's tragic.
Mm.
It's squandered potential and opportunity. And so one of the things that somebody might say, well, you know, I'm not gregarious, I'm an introvert, I don't like being with people, and I don't like talking in front of people. Fine, so change. That's a handicap. That's not a condition. There's no rule that says you've got to stay that way. You're not an animal, you're a human being.
Mm.
And, you know, again, when God said it's not good for man to be alone, he meant it. Meaning, learn to build relationships, learn to connect, and being able to communicate effectively is a vital and indispensable part of that procedure. One tip I'm going to give you, which I wish I could have a drum roll or an orchestra playing an introductory theme, because this is so important that it deserves a huge exposure. It's like a magician doing a magic trick. You know, he leads up to it. He's got to show you the top hat is empty before he pulls the rabbit out of it. Because otherwise, if the magician just pulls the rabbit out of a hat, I say, yeah, it was in there all the time. So things have to be presented in the right way. And I need to pull a rabbit out of the hat now, and you need to know the hat's completely empty. In other words, I'm telling you something that is absolutely astounding. And that is, it is a way to dramatically improve your effectiveness in communication in no more than 6 weeks, less than 2 months. You will sound like a different person. What is the secret? Find a good book. Now, my people use the good book. We use the Bible. But you can use any book you like, as long as that book is written in a way that you wished you sounded like. Borrow that book from the library and read aloud from it for half an hour, 3 days a week. It's that's not such a terrible thing, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, find half an hour and read aloud so your ears hear what your mouth and your tongue and your lips enunciate. And in 6 weeks, you're not going to believe how much more effectively your vocabulary improves, your ability to articulate words improves, your comfort with communication improves. It cannot be overestimated. What I've just said is perhaps the most valuable thing that we've discussed in the entire show so far.
Okay. Wow. All right, guys, I hope you got a hold of that. Okay, so Rabbi, as you heard earlier, I said that last week I introduced the book corner to the show. And although I'm just springing this on you, can I ask that you do me a quick favor, because I'm not going to review any other book. I want you to talk about your book. Could you share 2 business secrets from your book?
That's very difficult.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
People, I do a lot of teaching on male-female relationships.
Okay.
People sometimes say to me, so what is the one most important thing about a happy marriage? And the answer is, well, I think the one most important thing about a happy marriage is that there is no one most important thing.
Okay.
There isn't. And that's partially because of the infinite complexity of human beings. Every person was created in the image of God. That doesn't mean we live in the clouds and chat with the angels. It means that in the same way that God is one, we are one. God is unique, we are unique. God created each and every one of us to be completely different. So much so that I pose a wonderful question to friends all the time, and that is, two identical twins are in utero. They're identical twins. And when these two little boys and two little girls are born, you can barely tell them apart. Even their mother has trouble telling them apart. And that makes sense because they were both created with exactly the same DNA. And now the question is, do they have the same fingerprints as each other, or does each have a different set of fingerprints? This is a huge problem, because since we know that identical twins are created with the identical DNA, they are made from one split fertilized ovum. There is no other information. Neither twin has any information that the other doesn't have. So they've got to have the same fingerprints. Except they don't.
They do, yeah.
And nobody knows why. Now, if you ask a biologist, they'll come up and they'll say, well, it's because we have epigenetics, and epigenetics turn on and off. That, by the way, is just a fancy way of saying we don't have a clue.
Okay.
So in other words, our human uniqueness is absolutely central to our being. It's one of the reasons that a marketplace works. It's why we can do business. No dog ever says to another dog, how'd it be if you give me that bone and I'll pay you back 2 bones in a week? It doesn't work because every dog wants the same bone right now. Human beings are different. We can trade on eBay online because you have things I want and you don't want them anymore. That's why we can trade. We're all different. We're all unique. The uniqueness is very, very important. Well, if a dice has 6 faces, one of them has 1 dot, one has 2 dots, all the way up to 6 dots. And if you throw a dice, it can land in any way of 6 ways. So if I say, what are the chances of throwing a 3? Well, it's 1 in 6. But how about if I throw 2 dice at the same time? How many different ways can 2 dice come out? Well, the answer is 36 ways. Because dice 1 could be 1 dot and dice 2 could be 1 through 6. Die 1 could be 2 and die 2 could be 1 through 6. Well, that's 6 times 6. So when you bring 2 things together, you multiply the potential. And so I, as one human being, I'm unique. I'm very different from every other human being. And then when I marry my wife, well, she's also unique. So now we've got 2 uniquenesses come together, which means the marriage is even more unique, which means that there is no one advice that's good for every marriage. It's all different. Businesses are a little bit like that as well, in the sense that it's kind of hard. So I already gave you one, which is to understand that making money is an honorable, dignified, noble occupation. And it's hard for me, that's the book, right? But look how thick it is. Look how thick it is.
Yeah.
And that's because if I'm going to give you the 10 fundamental principles of making money, it's not easy and it's not quick. And so I would be doing everyone a disservice if I were able to just toss out 2 or 3 of them here. It doesn't work like that. But I did give you one, which was that you got to be able to see that making money comes about, if you're not using a gun, making money comes about because you are serving another one of God's children. And this is hugely important because, and tell me you've come across this. I am so sure you've come across what I'm about to describe. As a mentor, as a church leader, as a business teacher, I know you've come across this. And that is, I'll give you one quick example. My wife and I went out. We asked the teenage girl up the road to come and babysit, and we said to her, how much will it be? And she said $10 an hour. And I said, okay, that's great. And we came back, and the kids were in bed asleep and everything. She had done such a beautiful job, you know. And I said to her, how much do we owe you? Well, I should have been able to do the arithmetic, right? Because we were gone for 3 hours, and we had agreed $10 an hour, so it's $30. But I was interested in what was going to happen. I said to her, how much do I owe you? And instead of looking me in the eye and said, that'll be $30, she did what many, many of us do in similar circumstances, and that is, she looked down and her foot started moving on the carpet, and she eventually said, would $30 be okay? And I said, no, it wouldn't. And she said, I can make it less.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, no, you misunderstand me. I don't want to pay you $30. I want to pay you $40. And she said, I don't understand. I said, because you didn't deliver $30 of value to me. You delivered more than that.
Yeah.
And when my wife calls you up in 2 weeks' time when we want your services again, we want you to be eager to come and work for us again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the same principle when I hire a contractor to come and do some work at my house, and I ask for a quote. I don't try and talk him down from his quote. I don't want him to end up losing money. I don't want him to end up using inferior materials in order to get his profit. I'm happy to pay him what he asked. People are embarrassed to ask for money.
Yes. So
and that's because they don't believe that they are providing a service. They think they are taking money. She thought that she was making me poorer.
Yeah.
And she wasn't.
Yeah.
She was making me richer because I had an evening out with my wife.
Yes. We did a show on this where we were looking at moving away from like an hourly rate to looking at the value you are providing. The value that you are providing, and then charging.
The problem is you've got to get it into your head that you are not taking money, you are making money.
Okay. All right, guys, you heard that. You're not taking money, you are making money. Rabbi, we're coming towards the end of the show. There are a couple of things I want to very, very quickly ask you. Now, I know you're a keen boater. How important is recreation in wealth building?
Not terribly important at all, really.
Okay.
Entertainment is very destructive. I know I'm going upstream here in the sense I'm saying something that's going to be very hard for people to hear. But stop wasting time looking at videos. Stop it. It does absolutely nothing for you. Reading a book would do something for you. At least it exercises your cognitive abilities and expands your vocabulary. But watching pictures on a screen is a waste of time, and on top of everything else, it erodes your imagination. That's why I bet your mother raised you telling you to read.
Definitely.
You know, the reason she did that is because reading exercises our imagination, because we have to visualize the picture that the words are evoking. But when you're watching a video or a picture, your imagination is being atrophied. And for business, one thing you really need is an imagination. You've got to think of something that doesn't exist yet, that people would use. You need imagination. So physical activity to look after your body, absolutely very important. You have to eat right and you have to exercise. All of that is very important. But recreation per se or entertainment. Waste of your time. Don't do it, especially if you're in the early stages of building a business.
Okay, so you heard it here, guys. Really cut down on the mind-numbing activities that we get so involved in. Okay, just to round up, Rabbi, where can we get your book, and where can people connect with you after this program?
My website is rabbidaniellapin.com.
Okay.
And it's spelt, again, I'll show you, it's spelt just like that.
We can't see that. It's blurred.
It's still faded, eh?
Yeah, it's blurred.
I don't know why it's not. The camera's not focusing on it, is it?
Oh, it's better that way. It's better that way, actually. Yep, leave it there. That's fine. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and that's RABBI Daniel LAPIN.com, and the book is available there, as well as many other wealth building resources, and I can be reached there as well. Oh, by the way, here's an easy way to remember my website. If you find it hard to remember RabbiDanielLapin.com, you just go to youneedarabbi.com.
youneedarabbi.com. Okay. All right, I'm going to round this up, but just before I do, I want to do a quick shout out to some people who've joined us. Toby Akindele, all the way from Nigeria, thank you very much for joining us. He says this is a great show and it's great to connect with you again today. I've gotten great value. I also want to do a shout out to Oscar Diamond. Oscar is also calling in from Ivory Coast. He says, thanks, Bebe Clement, for this show. He says he has your book already, Rabbi. Emmanuel Sede is also watching. Emmanuel, thank you very much for taking the time. And to everybody who has taken the time to join us today, I cannot thank you enough. I want to thank my very, very special guest, Rabbi Lapin. You have done me such an honor. I'm so grateful for you coming along. And thank you very much. Hopefully we will have you back sometime in the future if you can make time for us. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to say thank you and stay safe and well. And as I always say, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.